lead singer named Justin Moore.
We don't do a whole lot of bullshitting up here. We just get up here and play country music. Hey guys, today's podcast is sponsored by Bobcat Company. Check them out at bobcat.com.
Check, check, 1 2. Check, check, 1 2. 1 2.
Hey.
All right. Yeah, mine's working. Yeah, what about
I'm
this
good.
song? Let me turn it up. Listen to this.
Oh, yeah. If you see my blue angel,
I mean,
her that heaven without her feels like hell tonight.
I mean, like we were talking with Shay Mooney last week. Appreciate you coming on last week, Shay. You know, everybody thinks of stuff different, and everybody likes what they like that. Some people would think, oh, man, his voice, because his voice is kind of different and kind of, you know, now looking back, it's kind of hicky, but it's so hillbilly, and it works for him, and he's not trying to do nothing but be
so
Aaron
country.
Tippin.
You know, it's funny.
And now that we know him, we've been around him, hey, that's
Yeah.
him. That's it. I mean, his shirts, I bet you right now he's got on a rattlesnake T-shirt, skin tight, rattlesnake boots.
Workout pants.
And his
Or they're
biceps
kind of
are-
like actually like fishing pants. A
Kinda like those
workout
ones-
shirt and
Yeah.
fishing pants, right?
That's
You know?
right. Workout like a tight.
Like something
Dry-
me
dry
and you. He wears like because he's ripped.
Right.
We're talking about Aaron Tippin. By the way, welcome back into the Justin
Yeah.
Moore podcast. Thank you guys. We weren't with you last week, and we'll get into why. But we're talking about Aaron Tippin, and
Which we got to do some
JR
shows with over the past
Yeah.
2 years or 3 years, maybe.
Yeah, JR just randomly that was playing on his system at home when we came on, and we both got kind of to nerding out on Aaron Tippin.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, great guy. But yeah, he wears that workout, like it's like a form-fitting shirt.
Yeah. Super
That you
tight.
and I would wear underneath the shirt that we would want people to see us in.
Right.
But
If
he
somebody
just wears
saw me
that
in that
shirt.
Yeah. If somebody saw me in that shirt, they would throw up. It would
Because
be
he's
awful.
ripped and he's probably, I mean,
He's got to be
30
50s.
years older than us.
Yeah.
You know what I
jacked.
mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Still
It's funny-
looks like $1 million, no doubt.
it's funny that's so random, man, because I was with my first cousin who's 2, 3, 4 years younger than me this week, quite a bit. And I don't know how we got on the subject, but he had gone and seen that package, Colin Ray, Sammy Kershaw, and Aaron Tippin.
Boots and roots.
Yeah.
Or roots and boots.
And you and I have discussed that tour on this podcast at length before when we did some shows together and how great those guys were. And he had the same conversation with me that you and I had together about, he goes, man, I went, and he's like, I thought Sammy Kershaw was going to be the one that I absolutely just am all about, which he said Sammy was great.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, man, I couldn't believe how awesome, first of all, Colin Ray was. And second of all, he's like, Aaron Tippin was my favorite. He goes, man, he was the most entertaining, you know, this and that. And anyway, it's kind of funny you brought that was playing when we got on here, and because I just literally hadn't thought about that, but had this conversation about 5-6 days ago, and I said, man, as good as those guys are on stage, they're even better folks. Guys, so we actually played a number of shows with them. I guess maybe that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I think.
It was prior to the shutdown for sure.
I said they were awesome and just a lot of fun and put on a great show. And
you and I've watched the
fun.
YouTube. There's some YouTube videos out there for people wanting something to watch. I know you and I've watched a few live shows
the
of them
whole
doing
show.
their show. I think maybe it was at SeaWorld or somewhere. There was one that was really good, but
it wasn't. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they're great, and yeah, I mean, they're all individually and as a whole getting to see a package like that. I mean, what a show! But yeah, Colin Ray. I mean, you forget how big the songs he had and how good his voice was, and he's still entertaining. And then Sammy's just sitting there, strangely enough, with only the one number one.
I know, right?
Which is crazy. One or two.
We need to get those guys.
He said he was
either.
All of them, yeah.
Either individually or separately, or together. I mean, we need to get them on because
he said
they're good.
Yeah, Sammy was saying he's the king of number twos because all of his songs end up at number two. For I can't remember who he said used to always beat him out and nudge him out, but he always said he always.
Yeah, it was like Chesney or somebody.
I think it was Chesney or Clint Black or somebody. But anyway,
may have been Clint Black. Yeah.
And then Aaron Tippin, like I said, it's kind of those songs of that era, though. Man, it just takes you back to place and just good songs. I mean, this guy used to build a motorcycle while he was doing. It'd be like you go to your show, just while you got to sing during all of this. You're building a motorcycle from scratch, and then at the end, you give it away to a veteran.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome, man. I mean, you think those guys, I mean, some of the most iconic songs of the 90s. I mean, really. I mean, not only did they have big hit records for a long time, but they were massive songs. I mean, you take them one by one, you look at Aaron and because there ain't nothing wrong with the radio. Yeah. I mean,
Working Man's PhD.
Working Man's PhD, Colin Ray. I mean, you're talking about
Little Red Rodeo.
Little Red Rodeo. You're talking about.
I can't even think right now. But I mean, just
the one that that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I mean, that was monstrous. And then Sammy with. She don't know she's beautiful. And then another song like that wasn't. It was one of those that wasn't a number one, but I would argue it was his biggest hit. Was oh, I made her the queen of my double wide trailer with the polyester curtains and a redwood deck. I mean, but anyway, great guys, and so
well, and and that was during the '90s, like you said. They had videos to go with all of this, more so than early on. It was more videos were big, and I mean, I can remember watching Aaron Tippin videos and Little Red Road, and and Sammy down in New Orleans. She don't know it's hanging out in the French Quarter and stuff. And now knowing them, you just think of them like what were they doing while they were doing these videos and stuff back then.
There's no telling. But anyway, we are glad to be back with you.
Yes.
And JR, you'll have to help me remember. Have we been off for a couple of weeks now? I believe.
Yeah, we were off a week for Thanksgiving, and then we took the last time we had Shay on 2 weeks ago. We took last week off. We were going to be on, but had some unfortunate circumstances, a lot of stuff going on with your family, so we punted. So now we're going to do this week, which will be season 3, episode 39, and then we're going to do one more for the week before New Year's Eve. Right, the day before New Year's Eve will be our last episode of the season.
Yeah. So apologize we didn't have you guys a new episode this past week. I'll just dive right in as to why. I guess it was I don't know, 10, 12 days ago, my 90-year-old grandfather, my only remaining surviving grandparent, who was 90, would have turned 91 next month. So lived pretty much 91 years. Unfortunately, took a turn for the worse and passed away. And I won't get into the details as to why. He was sick for a while, but had an incredible life. Had a great quality of life, really, until a couple of weeks back. I mean, he's dealt with some stuff over the past 6-8 months. He'd have good weeks and bad weeks, or good days and bad days. But we knew that it was going to be just a matter of time, starting about a week and a half ago. So I spent pretty much all of my time down there with him. I wasn't home much, but for those out there who have lost grandparents, and all your grandparents, I know JR is in the same boat. Not all of his grandparents, but has lost them. You know how difficult that is. No matter how old they are, no matter how prepared you think that you are, and as a Christian, I know he's better off than we are right now, but you just ain't never ready. I mean, you think you are, but it's just never easy. And so, I'm thankful not only for his life and the time that I've spent with him, but really super thankful for the past, 10, 12 days that I had to go help him and, help him to the bathroom, help take care of him, along with my, mom and her siblings and other cousins and aunts and uncles and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was tough, man. We lost him. I believe it was this past Thursday. So I guess this is going to air on
be a
Thursday.
week from
a week. It was a week ago. Yeah. We lost him. I was there, and for those out there who are pretty familiar with my story, I've talked about the land that I grew up on, how much it means to me, and I got it from my grandpa, who got it from his grandpa. This is the grandpa, so he lives through the pasture from me, and he's been there my whole life, and I'm gonna try to get through this without crying. I've done a lot of that, but yeah, just super thankful for him, and he and I were really close growing up, because I grew up, right here, right next to him, and he's the one who taught me how to fish, taught me how to bait a hook.
Yeah.
He's the one that taught me how to drive a tractor, work on stuff, bush hogs and hay balers, rakes, and all that stuff.
Helped us burn the pasture one time. Assisted with the burning of the pasture.
It's funny. I'll get into a couple of those stories because some of them include JR, like this one, which we've talked about again on this podcast.
He was just a character in general.
Just a character, and just taught me so much about life. And then I moved away and to Nashville, and then when I moved back, and my wife and I were Kate and I were looking for property. He was the biggest reason as to why that we decided to build and live and own and manage this property. I knew the history of it because of him. So he was, just to talk about him for a second, he when he was born premature, 2 pounds, and his mom died at birth. And you and I know have discussed this at some point, JR, but he was 2 pounds. They put him when they brought him home, they put him in a shoebox, and they put him in a chest of drawers to like sleep, and they fed him with an eyedropper, and they put whiskey in it. That's just what they did back then. But anyway, he should have never survived that. I mean, that would be difficult today to survive with all the modern technology and modern medicine. But he was he was tough. He came in the world fighting, went out fighting, and I'm thankful for him. And so when I moved back here and then, we started building and doing the things that we've done to this property. I mean, he was so proud, man, and we became really tight again. And not that we ever fell apart, but when I was gone and trying to make a career, obviously you lose a little bit of touch. And so, yeah, it was tough, man. It was not fun to go through. He's in a better place. He's with my grandma that he ain't seen in a long time. He's with his daughter, my mom's sister, who was like my second mom, that he ain't seen in a long time. And, the thing that somebody pointed out, my cousin pointed out, that I hadn't even really, I knew it, but I hadn't thought about, that just kind of, I was like, wow. That made me just kind of, it made me cry, made me, of happiness. But he finally got to meet his mom, because he never got to meet his mom. Yep. And so I thought, man, how cool is that? So not only is he with the good Lord, but he's with his mama for the first time. Yeah. So anyway,
say how proud she is of him for doing all the. I mean, he was a veteran. He raised kids, great kids. I mean, grandkids.
Korean War veteran, in the Air Force. Like me. Which is kind of cool that I'm raising my family here. He had 3 daughters, and his youngest was a son, same as me. So yeah, it was tough. It was, it's going to be tough, as you know. You lost yours, a few years back, and but thank you guys for. I don't really, some artists put all this stuff out on social media and that kind of stuff. I don't. I'm not really. It's just not my personality, But obviously this is a great platform for us to talk about these types of things, and because this is just conversational. I can't put it. It's hard to type into 140 characters what your papaw means to you, but in this particular setting, we can discuss these types of things. So appreciate you guys being patient with us, and that's why we weren't here last week. Otherwise we would have been. So appreciate y'all understanding that, and if you wouldn't mind, keep us in your thoughts and prayers, and moving forward is certainly we're going to need them to move forward.
Yeah, so. And it's good to talk about stuff. I mean, that's just part of it. Like me and you always say. I mean, we're adults now. I mean, I'm gonna be in my mid-40s soon. It's like it's our time to deal with this stuff. It's like kids out there don't hurry up to grow up. I mean, some parts of it ain't all it's cracked up to be, for sure. But yeah. So let's take a quick break, real quick, just for our fabulous sponsors and supporters of the podcast. And when we come back, we're gonna have on. Our guest, we were going to have him on last week. We moved him back this week. It is a fan guest who's a listener of the podcast, KCPineTar. Found out his real name, and he reached out. So we're going to bring him on, see where he's from, when he listens, what he likes about the show, just chit-chat with him a little bit. And we'll take a break and come back with him on there if that's cool with you, unless you got something for me.
And then after a while, we'll revisit the story of how Paul basically built a bigger fire than JR and I started.
Yeah. We'll end with some good. Well, we'll wrap up with some good Paul stories, because there are some good ones. He was a hoot. Yeah, I mean, it was like my grand talking. I told Gran about it this morning, and her dad was the same way. I think he was 89, but he was out, like he had a heart attack outside with his chainsaw cutting limbs off, or this fence line or something up in Grenada. You know what I mean? They just,
and your Paul, me and you got those genes.
Yeah, right. Because it was just a few weeks ago. Paul was still out working with James. It's crazy
on the tractor.
But,
yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So I love it. Hey, and then, while we're throwing up prayers, as you should every morning and evening, every time you think about it, talk to him. But let's send some out to Kentucky and Tennessee and everybody affected by these storms.
I meant to mention that as well.
Yeah, they look brutal. I had a few people asking me, did y'all have it in your area?
We did, yeah. It got bad here, and there were a couple of casualties, which that's too many, certainly. But nothing like the folks in Kentucky, in particular, dealt with, and all of the folks that dealt with it at all. As you said, man, our thoughts and prayers go out to them, and it's just rough stuff, man. You and I have grown up in this area and lived in it for a long time, man. You never know, and they're dangerous tornadoes.
Yep.
They sure
and you don't know they're
so.
coming. I mean, people always say about me living down here, you got to worry about hurricanes. Well, we get a little warning for those. Growing up even a couple hours north of here where I did, I mean, it could just blow up any time, and it is what it is. So anyway, if you can, reach out and help. Send any help up that way you can, or over that way to Kentucky, or anywhere that's affected by that. Send stuff. I'm sure Red Cross, and I'm sure there's a ton of great organizations getting stuff together. I'm actually getting a box together to send with one of my fraternity brothers who's going to Owensboro, Kentucky. He'll take some to some churches up there. So if you got anything you don't need, send some warm clothes. These folks don't have nothing right now.
And if there's anybody listening to this podcast who is in the heart of it, dealing with the devastation, our thoughts and prayers and hearts go out to y'all. And if you need anything, if we can help in any way, send JR a message on social media. Maybe use the hashtag Justin Moore Podcast, and we'll certainly do all that we can.
Yeah, if anything y'all need us to retweet or resend, or anything we could do by spreading the word on social media, definitely send that along too, or direct message me or something.
For sure.
All right, guys. Well, thank y'all for tuning back in this week. We're going to take a small break for our fabulous sponsors, and we'll be right back here shortly on the Justin Moore Podcast.
I want to give a quick shout out to Bobcat Company, who really does make a job, any job that is, easier. They got everything from skid steers to compact tractors, utility vehicles, zero-turn mowers, and everything in between. Their products are designed to make your lives easier. I like that. Which means spending more time with your family and doing the other fun things you love. Y'all know how big of a deal that is to me. Make sure you visit bobcat.com to see what products might be a good fit for your property. Hey, what's up, guys? Justin Moore here. I want to remind everyone out there listening that my wife, Kate, has an awesome children's clothing boutique in downtown Benton, Arkansas. It's Central Arkansas. So if you're local, come see us at 119 West South Street in downtown historic Benton, Arkansas. Again, that's 119 West South Street in Benton, Arkansas. And if you're not local, we ship everywhere. So you can find us at shopthislittlepiggy.com and see all that we have to offer, all that my wife Kate has to offer, I should say. Facebook, you can find us at shopthislittlepiggyAR, and Instagram, you can find us at shopthislittlepiggyAR. But check us out. It's called This Little Piggy, and see what we got to offer. Shopthislittlepiggy.com.
Hi, y'all. This is Brandon Bing, singer-songwriter and whiskey maker. You're tuning into the Justin Moore Podcast. Visit EasyLiquor.com to grab your bottle of Bangtail Whiskey and join the Blue Collar Swaller family today. Follow us on all socials at Bangtail Whiskey for more news and updates. Now pour Jigger and take this a second ride with us.
Hey, gang. As y'all have heard, the Justin Moore Podcast has recently teamed up with Wrangler. Wrangler has been an icon in authentic American style around the world for more than 70 years. With a rich legacy rooted in the American West, Wrangler commits to offering unmatched quality and timeless design. As y'all have heard me and Justin talk about on here, George Strait and Alan Jackson, they're Wranglers. We wear Wranglers too. Its collections are also for men and women, children, to look and feel great, inspiring those who wear them to be strong and ready for life every day. Wrangler is available in retail stores worldwide, including brand flagship stores in Denver and Dallas, department stores, mass market retailers, specialty shops, Western outfitters, and online. For more information, visit Wrangler.com. And you know you've heard it here, and you've seen it on stage, the Justin Moore Podcast. Dang glad to be partnered up with Wrangler because we're big fans and have been for a long, long time. Can't go wrong with a nice pair of Wranglers, y'all. I wear the Wrangler Retro. Justin wears the black one some. It's my go-to. I get mine at Academy. So if you're around an Academy or just about anywhere, you can get you a pair of Wranglers, whether you want to look like George Strait, or you want to look like JM, or you want to look like me. You can get you some Wranglers, and you can do that. Whether you're in North California or South Alabama or Montana, Texas, Ohio, Wyoming, wherever, a pair of Wranglers will get the job done. Long live cowboys and plowboys. For more information, visit Wrangler.com. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We're now dialing in our winner, Mr. KCPineTar. See if he's computer savvy any better than me and JM. You got us on there, KC?
I am there.
There he is. Here. Hey, buddy.
Hey, don't hang up when you see what I'm wearing today.
What you got on? You got your Mizzou gear on, I see there?
I got a little Mizzou gear on.
So you live? How are you, man? First and foremost, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm doing great. This is amazing. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So do you live in Missouri? Grew up in Missouri, or?
It's pretty interesting. So I live about, as the crow flies, about 10 miles from Profield, Mizzou Arena. So I'm pretty close to Columbia right now. But nice. Growing up, I grew up, actually lived in Conway, Arkansas at one time, right there off the UCM or UCA campus. And then lived in El Reno, Oklahoma, before coming to Missouri when I was in 4th grade. So I've been in Missouri most of my life, and kind of like you guys, I love going to live sporting events, and so I'm close to here, and I became a Mizzou fan. I don't know if I could have been a Mizzou fan my entire life, because it's not. I mean, it seems like they are always struggling. You know, we get a 5-star like Michael Porter Jr. and he gets hurt. The 5th down play back in the day. You know, and so. Man.
You're preaching. You're not preaching to the JR choir, but you're preaching to the JM choir, man. I know.
That's true.
I know it. But you know, the funny thing is, not funny thing, but for you guys, the great thing, you know, everybody talked about when you guys came into the SEC. I guess it was 6-8 years ago now, something like that. 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Actually, Almost 10 years now.
Wow,
Yeah, it's
that's
hard to believe. It's been a decade.
It really is. But y'all came in and did awesome. I mean, y'all won the East 2 or 3 times in football, and you've been always been pretty tough in basketball. And we've played that basketball arena there in Columbia a number of times, and it's a really nice arena, man, and a great campus. And so, yeah, man, we like to rib each other and other folks, but we actually don't really dislike anybody. We just except LSU and Auburn. But
yeah.
No,
well, I'll say you need to come back to Mizzou Arena, because I don't think we're going to get enough people in there for the basketball season. So we need you to come to sell that place out, because it's going to be a struggle this year. And but I agree with you. You have years like this, but it seems like we're in a funk. And ever since the SEC, we thought we'd be pretty good at basketball, and that really hasn't been the case. We kind of came in and played football pretty well, and then basketball has been in the struggle pretty much the entire time we've been in the SEC. So,
man, that's
but it's fun.
That's a great point. It's when you guys came into the league, it was really right around the time that you would think that you guys came in with A&M, right? That was the same time?
Right.
Yeah, and
yes.
A&M, I don't know how good they were in the Big 12 in basketball, but, middle of the pack in football in the Big 12, and then y'all both came in and have had great years in football, but and you guys have had good years in basketball as well, but at the time the SEC in basketball was kind of down. And that was right around the time that I believe it was Commissioner Mike Slive at the time with the SEC. Now it's Sankey, but they really made an effort, concerted effort to improve basketball, and all these teams went out and hired really, really good nationally known and well-proven coaches. And now the SEC arguably would be the best basketball conference also, in particular this year, and maybe over the past 2 or 3 years. So y'all joined in at a bad time in basketball, because it's never been this good. I mean, Florida's had great years. Kentucky's always been good with the exception of a year or two here or there. Arkansas has usually been pretty good in basketball. And everybody
else has a year here and there that they're good.
Right. Yeah. But that's a good point. I really didn't think about it that way. Yeah, y'all come in and dominate the East in football, and you're thinking basketball is going to be y'all's ticket, and then basketball hadn't been as good, but football's been better. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, and we got a taste of Kansas again over the weekend.
I saw a little bit of that.
Got bit by almost 50 points, and it has been a decade. In February, our last game with Kansas, probably one of the best sporting events I've ever been to at Mizzou Arena.
In basketball?
Marcus Denman lit it up, Kim English, and we beat Kansas our last home game, and should have beat Kansas at Kansas, and they came back to beat us there at the end. But
Kim English was tough. Didn't he? He coached at Mizzou for a while too, didn't he?
No, he's been coaching, and now he's over at George Mason out east. But he has coached at Tulsa and then at Tennessee a little bit. And he used to come by our tailgates.
Mizzou.
Yeah, he used to come by our tailgates. Super good guy. I'd love to see him be the Mizzou coach at some point.
Right. Yeah, I guess I was mistaken. I was thinking of the other previous coach that was there that played or other previous player that coached there.
Kim Anderson. Yeah.
Kim Anderson. That's who I was thinking. Yeah. Okay.
Super good guy, and he struggled. And of course, we gave you Barry Odom, who we still love Barry Odom. We claim Barry Odom. He's still a true son out of Missouri, and we still think a lot of him. So, I mean, you guys haven't let us win. I don't think we're going to do too well against you in basketball. You look pretty tough again this year. I watched the OU game the other day, and that was a pretty tough game. But
not good.
You're going to be good, though. You're going to be good.
Yeah, we got a lot of transfers, man. So it's going to take them a while to gel, Yeah.
I got to tell you, I do have some Arkansas blood in me, too. My mom is from a place called Timbo, Arkansas, north central Arkansas, just west of Mountain View. And when you guys
that's a pretty area.
Yeah, you talked a couple of weeks ago with Shay Mooney. And one guy you left out of your Arkansas crowd is from that area, Jimmy Driftwood. Jimmy's an Opry member back in
That's
the
right.
50s, 60s, and he wrote. He was my mom's school teacher, but he would write these songs. He would write these songs to help his students learn. And one of them, I know you know, Battle of New Orleans. You know, down in 1814, took a little trip. That song,
yeah.
And then
Johnny Horton,
and then that's right. And then a song I'd like to see you cover someday, and some awesome people have covered it. Johnny Cash, Hank Jr., Chris Ledoux, called Tennessee Stud. I would love to hear you.
George Strait's done that one
too. Yeah. Ernie Ford had the big hit on it, I think, was back in the day.
Doc Watson, yeah.
True.
Well, that's good to know. I didn't even know that. So
and that's good to know about the Jimmy Driftwood, because I was just telling somebody the other day that because the Battle of New Orleans song came on, and I was telling my wife, I always thought Johnny Horton was the school teacher who turned him into songs, and that's how he got his career. But it was actually Driftwood who wrote the songs, and that's how he got corrected some of my handler facts that I spit out to random people when I hear something.
I'm glad we got people to check us on them now.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and I spent some of my childhood. We'd go to the Driftwood Barn. It's still there at Mountain View on the weekends, and they definitely throw down. And it was pretty awesome growing up, being able to go to the Driftwood Barn, and really cool guy that you should definitely claim as yours.
Wow, very cool, man. Well, thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. So is KC your real name?
No, that's a reference, and you're a baseball guy. And you know why I like this podcast here. We're talking SEC, we're talking baseball, but KCPineTar is a reference of George Brett, my favorite baseball player of all time. Yeah. Yeah,
you know, I didn't even think about that.
I thought the pine tar. I was thinking pine tar, something with baseball, but
And I've had that moniker, as kind of a username that you guys probably have on a lot of your accounts, stuff like that. I've had KCPineTar for just since the internet started. So it's pretty cool.
Obviously, you're a Royals fan.
I am. I'm a big Royals fan, and this is Cardinal country. I mean, and so I'm pretty rare around here. I've got a few friends that are Royals fans, but I grew up in the George Brett days. I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I still remember when the Royals were good, even in the 80s and the late 70s, and then when they got the opportunity here in 2014-15 to go to the World Series, I went to the wild card game, which is an amazing game to go to. I wasn't going to miss it, though, because if you're a Royals fan, you have been living, those losing years for so long. I went out to Frisco for a couple World Series games, went to the World Series games, I think 3 at home in those 2 years. And I can't afford it. If I had a good team all the time, I needed a World Series budget, and I'd never had that before. So
is 14 the year they won it?
15.
15.
Yeah,
and then did they go back?
7
and then they went back?
7 and 14. No, they went in 14.
Okay, that was what it was.
The Giants.
Okay.
And then when came back in 15, won it. Man, it was exciting, especially if you've been a fan for as long as I have.
Oh yeah. So well, I mean, it's kind of similar to us and being Braves fans. I'm sure you've heard us talk about, man. They were so good in the 90s, and then just bottom fell out. Weren't good until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and had some good years. Good, but you knew they weren't good enough to win.
You're always hopeful. You're always hopeful.
They either didn't have the pitching, or they didn't have the contact hitters, or they didn't have whatever. They always were. You're like, they'll make the playoffs, but there's not a chance. And really, even this year, thought the same thing, especially when Acuna got hurt early to mid-season. I'm like, I just wrote them off. I'm like, God, they want to go again.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, so we can definitely we can definitely understand where you're coming from. So that's awesome.
I was going to tell you, I have a little Braves in me too, because my dad grew up in Westport, Indiana, with Greg Maddox's parents, both of his parents.
Wow!
So I watched Greg Maddox when he was nothing all the way. And what was cool, and you've referred to it as well, I watched him with the Cubs because we had WGN, and then he goes to the Braves, and you could watch it on TBS. You didn't have all the channels that you do now, and so that was pretty awesome. That I watched his entire career and actually got to meet him a couple years ago again, and he signed
Wow.
a Braves jersey for me. But that's kind of cool too. So and my brother
That's
lives
awesome.
in just outside of Atlanta in Winder, Georgia. So we definitely got a little Brave in me too.
Very
So.
cool, man. That's awesome. So what is what's your actual name then? That's where we started with this.
So my name's Chris Jolly.
Chris,
Like 'tis
okay.
the season to be jolly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
it's
there
nice
you
to
go.
meet you,
At this
Chris.
time of year. Yeah, it's nice to meet you guys.
So, man, what's your story? What do you do for a living? Are you married? Do you have kids? What's the scoop?
So I'm in law enforcement and about to hit my 24th year in February. I always tell
Thank
people,
you, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I always tell people, I got into law enforcement so I wouldn't be in an office, but I'm in an office now. But that's okay because I got some young ones. I started a little bit late in life. So my wife, Gina, and then I've got a daughter who is 10, Carissa, and Drew, who is 8, an 8-year-old boy. So, nothing better in the world being a dad. So
I've got a 10 and a
love it.
7 right now. So
I think they would have fun, together.
And I almost killed my 11-year-old. Well, I had to stop my wife from killing my 11-year-old this morning. I'll just say that. I was the one going, okay, that's enough. Let her go to school. She got to go to school. But
that's awesome.
Well, first and foremost, man, I thank you for your service, and I don't say that flippantly. I feel like sometimes that's trivial when people say that, but we genuinely mean it. I can't fathom, the courage with which you guys get up and go do this day in, day out, and your families as well, so thank you very much for what you do.
I appreciate
and
that very much. Yeah.
We always try to do all that we can for our servicemen and women, and certainly our police are a giant part of that. So, what do you do that you're in an office? I could speculate, but I'll let you.
Well,
Is it some high level stuff that we don't need to be talking about on the interwebs?
There is some high level stuff that I definitely share with you guys at some point. But I'm a captain with the Highway Patrol here in Missouri, and
awesome.
And I gotta say the men and women that do it every day. I had my fun before kids. I worked mostly in the Kansas City area when I worked the road, and was on the SWAT team over there too. So I had a lot of fun before I had kids, and now I get to be home at night with my kids unless, something's really going on. So it's been an awesome career, but we had a trooper shot last week, Trooper Colton Beck, and he's in the hospital right now. And, those are the people that are doing it day in and day out. And his wife, Jessica, and he's got an 8-year-old son named Bo and a 4-year-old daughter named Stella. And he's got some pretty good injuries. So those are the people that, we appreciate it because there are some amazing people that do this work. And especially these young people that are getting in that career right now, it's tough, man. And so they're awesome, and they're my heroes too. So
yeah, and this has got to be the most difficult age to do what you guys do. I mean, I won't get into the minutia of why, but we all know why. Everybody listening and watching, and certainly you. But I have a really good friend who I coach. Matter of fact, I coach softball with, who was on the street for a long time, such as yourself, and now he's the lead detective in a certain area around here, and it always amazes me because he says the exact same thing as you. He's like, yeah. And I had a cousin who was a cop for a long time. They're like, yeah, I had my fun times when I was, and I'm like, fun? That was the most dangerous, craziest, from an outsider's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It amazes me how different people are personality wise. Like you guys and gals choose to do that and love it. And it's just in you. And I would be the type going, I don't, that's not in me. There's no, I guess if I had to, I could do it, but there's no way I would choose to do it. I don't have that bravery inside of me, I guess, or, so I such admire guys like yourself and the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's funny because my mom, when you tell your parents you want to be a trooper or a law enforcement officer or anything like that, of course they have concerns. But it's interesting. My mom said, I'm not worried about you as far as the training. You're going to get the best training. I just hate what you're going to have to see. And man, she was right.
Wow.
I mean, we see some crazy things, and then we're supposed to come home and act normal. And it's tough.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah.
Oh man, I can only imagine, brother. I mean, I bet.
So.
Well, what's the no, you're in that area, which is good to know. I jotted that down in case we ever get pulled over on the bus for speeding in the area. I know who to call. But are you getting a little break from work? Are y'all getting excited from Christmas, or for Christmas? Like you said, 'tis the season to be Chris Jolly. So what's going on in the house over there? Is everybody getting fired up? Have you gotten all the gifts? Or are you going to have to jingle all the way to go get Turbo Man for your little one this year?
Oh gosh,
well,
that is me most years.
It's funny because and probably like you guys, I mean, my wife, it seems like she takes on a load of that stuff, and I just kind of show up that day, and she's amazing with that. But yeah, we've got, and of course those ages, like you have, Justin, as well, man, those are fun on Christmas Day just to watch them. And I look forward to that every year. And by the way, getting a shout out from South, KCPineTar, that was probably cooler than anything that so far. So that was really cute. That was really cool. So
yeah, I'm just hating everybody had to see him in his underwear. He's a trip now. Matter of fact, the other day I was here by myself with him. He and I were here at the house by ourselves, and my wife had the girls, and they were off doing something. And he gets up. I'm downstairs drinking coffee. He goes, "Dad, I'm gonna wear underwear today, nothing else." I go, "All right, dude, whatever." And this was like a couple of weeks ago. And he goes, "Can I open my Christmas presents?" And I go, "Yeah, on Christmas." And he goes, "Okay, cool, just checking." So, but anyway,
awesome.
He's a trip, man. Yeah, I mean, you get it. You've been there. That. Like 3, 4, 5, man. It's such a fun age. I mean, every age you think is the best age when you're at it. Nearing having a teenager, that's not quite as fun. Sometimes
exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome, man. So
hey, I was going to ask. If we talk sports, in which we love to do, and we could do that. We could chop it up on sports all day, every day. But I was going back to some music stuff. I wanted to get your take, what you like on music. Have you been to any shows this past year? Have you been to any Justin shows?
Yeah, how'd you get into country music?
Yeah, but before we do that, I wanted to drop this on you too while we were talking about people from Arkansas, because it's just popped up on my This Day in Country Music. And I'm pretty sure he's from. Isn't Charlie Rich from Arkansas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. I don't know if we mentioned him last week, but he was born the day we're recording this, December 14th, 1932.
Yeah, he's the one that lit John Denver's new artist envelope on fire.
Yep, he was hammered drunk.
I think it was at the ACMs. Might have been CMAs.
Yeah, they say he was pretty bitter by that point in his career, and he was about half drunk. Poor thing, he was up there drunk. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes good decisions don't happen after a salad, but sometimes terrible decisions happen after a few drinks, as I'm sure you've been bore witness to, KC, over the years. But
nothing good happens after midnight or whatever.
Exactly.
That's right.
But he had it in '73. He had the Silver Fox had Behind Closed Door and The Most Beautiful Girl. He passed away in his sleep in '95. So anyway, that's another one of your Arkansas guys. But yeah, how'd you get into country music, and how'd you get in listeting to this podcast?
Well, I was hoping at some point I'd get the opportunity to do my Mount Rushmore, but
yes, I got that down here. I got to do your birthday. What's your birthday? So I go ahead and get that dialed up.
So I'm May 20th of 1972.
May 2072. Copy.
So
that.
Next year is going to be kind of a milestone.
That's a big birthday, huh?
Yeah.
Well, let's just talk.
Awesome
you could just
to go to a JM concert for sure.
You're
that'll be awesome.
Yeah. Well, just you can just chit chat on music. You roll into your Mount Rushmore whenever you get ready. We'll just go ahead and get on that.
So I brought some show and tell. It's kind of funny because you know how you move and you don't open a box. You know, you leave boxes around and you don't open them for a while. Well, last week I opened a box up, and I can't believe what I found in there. And some of them was just a shoebox full of old tickets. And the first one I'll show you. And one of the things we were talking about concerts, and unfortunately, pandemic really ruined it. Me and my wife Gina, I mean, I've already told you how amazing she is, but that's our thing. We love going to concerts and all that kind of stuff. Well, my son Drew, he's had some health issues that prevented him from going to school, and his sister. So they've been virtual this entire time. So she's not only working from home, but has been a school teacher to an 8 and 10-year-old. So that's difficult.
So are they still at home now?
They are,
still
but we got
virtual.
Yeah, but we got the green light last week from his specialist doctor in St. Louis that he can go back to school and play basketball. We've let him play outdoor sports and stuff, and he loves that, but basketball is his favorite. So he actually got to go play basketball with his buddies last night, and it was pretty awesome to watch. But
very cool.
Yeah, so Gina and I went to our first concert here recently since the pandemic. It was the Dierks Bentley Beers on Me tour with Riley Green and Priscilla Block, and it was awesome. So
great.
But I got to show you something. I don't know if you can see that, but so this
Gary
is
Allen.
September 30th of 2009, and you'll find that my wife is a huge Gary Allen fan, and in fact, you opened for him quite a bit, and so. You know, my wife would leave me for Gary Allen. And then, unfortunately, over the weekend, I saw he got engaged. So I guess that's never going to happen. So
well, that's fortunate for you then.
You're like,
Unfortunately for her.
Yeah.
That's right. But anyway, this was September 30th, 2009 at the Starlight Theater in Kansas City. And you opened for Gary Allen, and also Eric Church was on that ticket. I don't know if you remember those days.
Wow.
But that was the first
do.
time I ever saw Justin Moore at a concert. And
I do,
'09.
man.
Awesome.
And I'll tell you, so that was in September of 2009?
That's September 30th, 2009.
So Small
And so
Town
you would've
USA would have been number one probably a month or two before that, if I'm guessing.
Yeah. That was it.
Something like that. And at the time, I mean, it's wild to think back on, but Eric and I were playing a lot of shows together at the time, and there, you know, it was like I'd open, he'd close, or vice versa.
Yeah.
There was just a bunch of that going on at the time. And
do you remember that particular show? He was hurt. He had like a knee injury or an ankle injury or something, and so they put him up on a bar stool to try to sing from. And if you know anything about Eric Church, and I'm a big fan of his as well, but he couldn't handle it. He couldn't, you know how he is so passionate about his music. He couldn't stand there without injuring himself again. And I don't know if you remember that. But.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what happened. And I wasn't there, but I remember the story. And I don't know what show in particular it was at, but, you know, and folks out there listening that have seen Eric live, which I'm sure there are a ton of them, he stomps his foot on stage and he beats his chest, and he's just really passionate. And so he broke his ankle or his foot or something because he on stage he was stomping it so hard he broke it. That's what happened. And so he had to play for a while sitting on a stool, which I guess he was probably still stomping the other leg or something, if I had to guess, knowing Eric. But
and we happened to be right up front for that concert. So and he was beating on his chest, like he does. And him and Barstool don't go along.
No, I was just wondering too. I wonder if he's doing that because he's passionate, or is he trying to get the drummer to speed up? And he's like, "Damn it, drummer! If you don't speed up," and he broke his foot later on. It's a story that CMT didn't tell us. He was pissed at his drummer because he's like, "Speed up!"
So then, if I go to the next time I see Justin play, and this one had a big impression on me, and it made me a bigger fan of yours. This would have been May, and I looked these back up, May 19th of 2012. You were on the Country Throwdown tour with Gary Allen, Florida-Georgia line, Corey Smith, Josh Thompson. And what's funny is on the side stage was Carly Pierce, which now look at her. She's
FGL was on the side stage too then.
Yeah, FGL was there as well. But anyway, I was pretty up.
And Rodney Atkins was on that tour too, I think.
I think Gary headlined that tour.
Because I saw him at
did.
the Fontanelle. I remember me and Party and Hannah Dasher and some of us all met up and went over and saw Gary. Yeah, and because FGL was on the way in the field, we were on our way back there to the big Fontanelle stage, and there was some stages set up in the field. FGL was over, and I remember riding by thinking, man, that's something else. And Party goes, they're gonna have a number one with they're about to have a big number one. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And turns out that was Cruise, one of the biggest songs ever. But I remember, I don't know if somebody couldn't show. I remember Rodney Atkins was on the bill, but maybe he was filling in for somebody.
I don't think he was on that one when I saw him.
Yeah, but it was the country throwdown thing. I remember because I went to one that same era. But anyway, didn't interrupt.
Yeah, so that was 2012. But anyway, I was up front pretty close to that one again. My wife's a Gary Allen fan, and she's been in the fan club forever, and so we always had pretty good tickets. But Justin was there at every act, every artist that was up there. I noticed he was helping get the stage set, and then he was sitting back up there behind the stage and watching each one of those performances. And I don't know if this is what you were doing, Justin, but it made an impression on me that I can still picture it in my mind. Like you were working, you were trying to see what you could get from others to make you a better performer. And I may be wrong, I don't know, but that's just what I thought just by watching you is, that he was trying to take this all in. And we know, and he kind of minimizes it, but to be in country music as long as he has, I mean, that takes a lot of hard work. That takes a lot of effort. And so I don't know. You tell me if I'm wrong, but that's the impression I got when I saw him there.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And again, I don't know what's going on. It's probably my internet. So I might have missed something in there, but if I'll try to respond as best I can. Back then, man, that was, I believe you said 2012, and I remember that tour specifically because FGL was on the side stage, and there were others who have become, uber successful since then, and being successful first, or or a little bit later, or whatever, has nothing to do with talent or work ethic or anything like that. It's just kind of a luck thing and timing thing. And, I had some success before some of those artists, but happy that they've had a ton of success since. But, at that point, I signed my record deal in 2007, so I was, 5 years in, and really had only had success, what you would really consider success, on a national level for like 3 years at that point. So from the 2009 show you saw us to the 12 show, and I mean, you're just still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and so thankful, and I'm thankful to this point still. But yeah, man, I think you touched on the learning aspect, and people ask me all the time, like, who did you learn this from, or how did you learn how to put a show together, or what you do on stage? And my answer, I can't answer for anybody else, but mine is you learn from everybody, people that have done it a lot longer than you, and quite honestly, people who haven't done it half as long as I have, I still learn from. And so I've always been of the opinion, hey, watch this guy or watch this girl or whatever, and you may take something away. And so I feel like you kind of take little pieces from each, artist that you see, and whether they're opening for you or you're opening for them or whatever. And then obviously you have your own things that you do and say, and the way you write or sing. And so, yeah, I in particular back then, now I'm kind of old and have a lot more going on with kids and all that. But yeah, I used to go watch everybody's show every single night. And JR and I still do at times. It's not always now, because there are other things that we have to tend to, or other responsibilities to take care of, and you just can't, quite honestly. But at the end of the day, the reason I did that too was not only for my own benefit to learn from people. It was, I'm a fan. I've said that on here. I've said it on stage. I've said it in interviews. I get to do this for a living, and I get to be on stage, and I get to go to these shows, and I have a different viewpoint, and I have a different perspective. but I'm still a fan. I would be going to shows just like you and Gina.
Yeah.
My wife and I, Kate, would be going to shows if I wasn't doing this for a living. So, you know, I'm you know, a lot of it was me going and watching because I just was a fan of it. Even if I didn't know the artist's music at the time, I was just a fan of music and live music, and specifically country music.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. And by the way, I did want to ask you this question. Like, when you did make that move to Arkansas, and I tell you what, I mean, you can never make a wrong decision when you put family first. So that was a good decision. But has it been harder as an artist to not be in Nashville all the time?
I think we got him on a lag. He's
Got
frozen.
him on a lag. Did you hear my question?
I did. It's a good one. There he is. You're moving again.
Sorry.
Can you hear us? Oh, you're good.
I tried to swap Wi-Fi's.
Yeah, you were good. You froze up for a sec, but you've been fine on our end. Well, I hadn't noticed much of a lag.
I just can't understand you. If you can understand me,
yeah.
Maybe I'll log off this Zoom and log back on and see if that helps.
I'm sure it's just your internet.
It says it's really strong, but
You're sounding good right now.
Can you not hear us, though?
Hey, JR, let me log off and I'll be right back.
Okay,
let me
sounds
see
good.
if that works.
All right, buddy. All right, we're
hey,
gonna try this.
Chris, it wouldn't be this podcast without these technical difficulties, buddy.
It happens all the time. Yeah,
that's what
we've gotten used to it, really. You know.
Well, I hit the mute thing and it's gonna make a noise too. Yeah, look at us. We're so fancy. I'm telling y'all, this is a high-class podcast. It's going to win all kinds of major awards at the Podcast Award Show this year.
Chris, you can go tell people, man. They say they're real dudes. Well, here we are. We really are.
That's awesome.
If my wife was here, she could probably fix this, but I can't.
Yeah, well, I know how that goes.
Let me change earbuds and see if that does anything.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, everybody, stand by. We're here working on some technical problems and arrangements here at the Justin Moore Podcast. We appreciate y'all using the hashtag Justin Moore Podcast, just like KCPineTar did when he sent that fabulous 5-star review in. We need everybody to get in their holiday bag and send us those good reviews. I'm JR the Handler on Twitter and Instagram. That's Justin Cole Moore on Twitter and Instagram. And that's KCPineTar. And you can find him on Instagram. Yeah. You can't hear us still, Just?
Now there's nothing, which is just bizarre.
Elon Musk, Man of the Year, they just announced yesterday. I'm still waiting on my Starlink internet, and so is Justin. I've already put my down payment down, so you're the Man of the Year now. Get your shit together and get me my internet. You ought to see mine, KC. I have to run I've got a 300-foot Cat 5 cable that I run from my desk in my office around I've got a hook up there where I keep it looped up like an extension cord. Then I run it under my garage door, through my screen door, through my back door by my kitchen, through my living room to my router. I've got these extenders. I've got all this stuff. It's the only way I could figure out where I know I've got it. But even then, our internet it goes in waves sometimes. We live down here on an island. There's 2 providers there. It's it's not a big city. So,
hey, that was a humble brag, by the way.
What's that?
A humble brag is something like, I live on an island over here. You know?
Oh, well, depends on what kind of island it is. I mean, if you live on Alcatraz, it's not such a good thing. You know.
That's true. That's true.
Everything in context, huh, KC?
Right.
Yeah, that's true though. But like Justin, he lives like Poland is a small town, and he lives on the outskirts of Poland. He just basically lives down a county road. So,
right. I mean,
we're just at the mercy. One we do get this. What I'm talking about for anybody listening, if we end up using any of this footage, is Tesla is coming up with an internet that's connected to satellites that are a lot closer to Earth than the typical satellites we use now. And it's basically going to be able to where you have high-speed internet, even if you're in the jungles or in the desert or anywhere, you can get a straight shot to the sky. There he is. He's back. So we've signed up.
Yeah, I've already signed up for it. Okay, yeah, it's back and completely normal now. Sorry, Chris, man.
No,
apologies,
you're fine,
buddy.
You're fine.
It's all good.
I mean, I'm out. JR can probably he might have told you, I don't know, but like I'm out in the sticks, man.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
We're waiting on
It can be like fast, or it can be just completely gone.
So Poyen, is it purple and gold? Is that their colors?
It is, yeah. Which
Sweet.
I hate, honestly.
Well, I
because
grew up
hate
in
LSU.
Monette, Missouri. Monette, Missouri is purple and gold as well. So,
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
We and so yeah, we're purple and gold, and which is ironic because prior to you guys coming in the league, LSU was our rival, and then obviously my wife is from down there, so.
Well, I think they're still your rival. I don't think you're gonna. I've got an uncle in Little Rock and a cousin in Little Rock as well, the Sutterfields, and they cannot stand LSU. It's a hatred. Yeah.
I don't think that either the Missouri fan base nor the Arkansas fan base views either as a rival. I mean, I'm assuming you guys are still consider what, Kansas and is it Kansas the main one?
Kansas would be your LSU. I mean, there's just a hatred, and it's pretty. I mean, there's nothing like it. Yeah. So,
have they ever beaten y'all in football? Like one time ever?
They have. They were good there for just a little bit. They didn't beat us, but they ended up picking them to go to the Orange Bowl over us, and we beat them that year. That was when Chase Daniel was quarterback and all that good stuff. And,
I remember that because that was probably the year that y'all beat the crap out of us in the Cotton Bowl. Was about 09, something like that?
That was actually 08. Okay. And that was 08. I didn't get to go to that game. I went to the Cotton Bowl the year before when we played Oklahoma State. But
y'all absolutely
out of country.
That was when we had JR. That's when we had Darren McFadden too.
Oh yeah.
And we
Chase
go
Daniel
down
was good. He ended up playing for the Saints for a little while. They thought he might be the heir apparent to Drew for a minute. Yeah.
He had a great NFL backup career. He may still be in the league.
Still there.
I don't know.
Yeah,
he's
still there. He's with the Chargers now, and he's
solid.
Unreal.
We went down and beat LSU in Baton Rouge. They were ranked, I don't know, number one, I think, and we go to the Cotton Bowl, but Houston Nutt at the time was our coach. He got fired, or he left for Ole Miss, but he got fired, and. We go to the Cotton Bowl, which is still a great bowl. And y'all beat us like 50-10 or something. I mean, it was something bad.
Well, that was the Tony Temple was our running back, and he just
That's
ran
right. That's right.
Record amount of yards, and so
here we go.
That was
us. We'll turn it. We have a disruption in communication. Back to sports. Yeah, always.
So
hey,
before you left, I asked a question about about you moving to Arkansas from Nashville, and obviously, like I said, you're never going to make the wrong decision when you put family first. So it was a good decision. But has it been harder for you as an artist to not be in Nashville?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not only from a logistics standpoint, obviously. I mean, when I made that move, Chris, a lot of the technology that exists now from a recording standpoint, I mean, even Zoom and stuff like this, it just didn't exist,
Right.
And so everybody records for the most part in Nashville, in particular tracks, because that's where the musicians are. And so that plus award shows, industry events that I'm required to be at, or at the time was, but it was worth that sacrifice to me to make those drives or flights or whatever. And then, I mean, JR can tell you, and just being completely transparent, had I stayed in Nashville and played the game, so to speak, played the game a little differently or a little more, or however you want to put it, I mean, I would have won more awards and done more of this or more of that or whatever. But that just, the older I got, not that I was getting old, but the more I really thought about things, my priorities changed, I guess you'd say.
Right.
When I first moved to Nashville in 2002, my goal was to be the biggest artist in the history of country music. That's what you go there. That's what I went there thinking. I'm gonna sell more albums than Garth Brooks, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that, and then for some people that goal is either it's enhanced or you still want that, and some people such as myself, I got married and I had a little girl, and I still wanted to make the best music I possibly could, and I still wanted to grow my audience, at the level at the highest level, and all of those things, and my career, and but that wasn't at the top of the priority list for me. And so, yeah, I'm sure that it's probably had some negative effects, if you want to call it that. Maybe we'd be selling 20,000 tickets a night rather than 5 or 6 at this point if I didn't. But at the end of the day, man, I get to go make music for a living. I get to go play music for a living. I make a good living, and I kind of get to live a normal life, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm envious of the Luke Bryans and the Aldeans and those guys because they have unlimited resources when they put a show together. They can buy all the fancy video walls and the this and all of that, but I don't know how easy it is for them to go coach their 12-year-old in a softball tournament.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe they can. I don't know. I'm not, but I know I can.
Yeah.
And I can
Right.
still go play music for a living. And some people may think that's insane of me. But that's just what matters more to me. And that
Yeah.
and I hope it's not coming across as that music doesn't matter to me, because it certainly does. But the balance is what I was looking for. And I, right, wrong, or indifferent, I've achieved that, at least to me. I have, if that makes
Well,
any
it's
sense
funny.
at all.
No, it does. And in fact, somebody told me one time, and you've probably heard it as well, when you're on your deathbed, are you going to be asking for how many, your gold records to come up by your bed and, all your awards or whatever? No, it's going to be your family. And that's, you've got your life prioritized right, is what I'm saying. And you're just as relevant today as you've ever been. I love your music. The music you're pushing out right now is awesome. And, and I'm not just saying that because, I've already obviously got to meet you guys here on the podcast and get to come see a show, but you're as relevant now as you've ever been. And Straight Out of the Country, that album is awesome. And we really look forward to your next one coming out here soon.
Thank you, man.
So
I appreciate that. And yeah, you're exactly right on the, when you're at that moment. And I don't know if you heard us before you came on, but I was talking about the fact that we didn't have a podcast last week because my grandfather passed away.
I hate to hear that. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But I was me and some of my cousins and all my mom and aunts, uncles were sitting around, him sitting in his recliner when it happened. And
wow.
he actually, that was a week ago today. And he actually told me that about 6 months ago. He said,
is that right?
Pretty much the same sentiment as what you just said. Hey, this is what matters. And not that I didn't know that, because of him teaching me that, without having to say that. But yeah, you're exactly right. So that's kind of everybody looks at the world and their lives differently. And,
Mm-hmm.
not to get too spiritual on anybody out there listening, but like, for instance, I'm a Christian, and my 11-year-old daughter was saved a couple of years ago. And my 10-year-old daughter was saved a couple of weeks ago.
Sweet.
And I don't know if that had happened. If I had made different decisions,
right,
with my career and in my life. So those
awesome.
are the things that matter to me. So anyway.
Absolutely, yeah, very cool.
Well, hey,
again, condolences for your grandpa.
Thank you. I appreciate
but it is
that,
an
man.
honor.
Thanks so much.
It is an honor to be there when it happens. I mean,
yeah, no doubt about it.
Pretty awesome.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, well, I know we were talking about some music stuff and how you got to come see us, and that kind of rolled into that, but into the question. But you'd mentioned it earlier, the Mount Rushmore. What does KCPineTar Mount Rushmore of country music look like? And you've heard us. Have you listened to most all the episodes of the podcast?
Yeah, it's funny. If I was going to tell you who got me onto this podcast, of course, I've been a Justin Moore fan for a long time, but I didn't necessarily know right when the podcast came out. It was your buddy, Marty Smith. I listened to Marty on Marty Smith's America.
He's great,
his podcast,
man.
and it's kind of defunct right now. I got to tell you something about Marty if you got a chance. But Marty Smith's America podcast last year. It was May 31st. His podcast called Mickey Bars. About 40 minutes or so into the podcast, he talks about a letter and a package I sent him, and it's weird. Marty, he'll tell you, and reading his book, Never Settle, and all that good stuff, and being a fan on his podcast, but he'll tell you that Eric Church changed his life with the albums Sinners Like Me. And I would say his did the same. His book did the same for me, and his podcast, because he's always been open and honest about the death of his parents. Well, unfortunately, my dad passed away May 22nd of 20. And it was unexpected. It was one of those where you get those phone calls at like 5:20 in the morning. And so it wasn't good. But one of the first things I thought about at the time was, now I know how Marty feels. I sent him a letter. He talks about it in that podcast. If you go back to Marty Smith's America and that podcast, which is pretty cool. We have some weird similarities. He saw the address. I live on Leo Smith Road. I didn't know it at the time. That was his dad's name, was Leo Smith.
Wow. I didn't know that either.
And my dad died on May 22nd, and that's his youngest daughter's birthday. And I last talked to my dad on May 20th because that's my birthday, and that's him and his wife's anniversary. But we've got some weird, I'm telling you,
yeah,
weird
that is
stuff.
wild.
In fact, when I wrote this message, I told my wife, I said, hey, Justin Moore's giving, how much I love this podcast. Justin Moore's going to do a flight and some tickets to a concert of his. And I know him and Marty are tight. I'm telling you, I'm going to win this thing. And I told her that. It's just
crazy.
weird. So
Yeah.
I bet if you text Marty later today and say, hey, I had Chris from Leo Smith Road National, I think he's probably going to freak out a little bit. And I know he's a regular listener to this podcast. I think he's a regular listener to the podcast, but it's pretty cool. And we've been in the same venues together and just never really met up, but it's been pretty cool. But he was the reason. So my Mount Rushmore, and like,
so wait a minute, before you do that, you haven't met him in person?
I have not met him in person.
We're gonna make that happen.
Yeah, we got to make that happen.
And you probably know this because you've interacted with him, even though you haven't met him in person. And JR can attest to this. There's not a finer human being walking the planet, and he is as genuine and as real as it comes.
Yep.
Who he is on TV and on his podcast and in his book, he's that person. I promise you. And a lot of times, celebrities or whomever are not, he is. I promise you. He's a fantastic human being, and proud to call him a friend. So, but we got to make that happen, and I promise you we will.
No, that's awesome.
That'd be great.
No, that's cool. He came and hosted SEC Nation back when Laura Rutledge went on. She was pregnant at the time, and his first one was in Columbia, Missouri, and of course we haven't been good enough for him to come back. But he was so stressed out from doing that one that we never got to meet up, but it was cool. Big fan. So, hey, so my Mount Rushmore.
Damn, Laura Rutledge has
like
kids.
I said,
woo. son.
I tell you
Anyway.
what, yeah, and she seems cool too.
Strong.
Strong, buddy.
My Mount Rushmore, if I was to go back, and by the way, I'm a Metallica guy, I'm a Motley Crue guy, and I love that you did Home Sweet Home, and that's going to be on the vinyl here soon. I grew up in the hair band era too, so I've got some rock in me too. But country music, Mount Rushmore, I'd have to start. And this came out of that same box I showed you that ticket before, but this is Randy Travis.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Randy.
What's that date?
This one is October 25th of 2002, and he was with the Kansas City Symphony, and that one was amazing. I mean, I've seen him back in the day, and if you never got to hear Randy live sing, it's just a matter of time where the speakers start rumbling. I mean, there's nothing like it, Randy. And if it wasn't for Randy Travis in the '80s, I don't know if the '90s would have happened. I mean, he was a big part of that. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And then
that was the month and year that I moved to Nashville, October of 2002. Yeah.
More ironies. Hey, I got to say too, I was flipping through the channels, and me and Sharice wanted to watch a Christmas movie the other day, and we stopped on one called Christmas on the Bayou, co-starring Randy Travis. He's the general store owner of the place. Yeah, Christmas on the Bayou. I think it's on Netflix. But anyway, Randy Travis. This is prior to his accident and all that stuff. But yeah, he was the shop owner, hometown guy. Anyway, it was awesome.
Wow.
But anyway.
Well, I saw he was on the Opry the other night, 35 years being an Opry member, and he was still up there, and, love Randy Travis, though. I mean,
we've got a great Randy Travis story. We played, JR can tell it better than me, but the time we played LP Field, JR.
With Hank Jr., yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that day I'm coming back from the liquor store with a bunch of I'm loading liquor on the bus. It was
CMA Fest, which is previously Fanfare.
Yeah. And I'm loading some stuff on the bus, and this long-haired guy comes up, younger guy, and's like, "Hey man, where's the closest liquor store?" And I'm like, "Man, there's liquor stores, close to downtown here, but this CMA Fest, bro, you ain't gonna be able to get in out of here." I said, I got the runner to take me to my house out in Whites Creek so I could shower, and I stopped at the one out there on Trinity Lane on the way back in. I said, it's going to be tough right now. I said, "What you need?" And he goes, "Well, Dad was looking for a bottle of red for Dad." And I was like, "Oh, just some red wine. Who's your dad?" He goes, "Randy Travis." I was like, give me just a second here." So I go on the bus like, Randy Travis' son's out here, and he wants some red wine.
We have a wine refrigerator on our bus. So.
Yeah, so I'm like, can we give him some of our wine? He's like, "Hell yeah, give him the best bottle we got."
I said, give it all to him.
Yes, let me have it all. So and then I give him. His name's Riley, is my buddy. We end up being good buddies. We still stay in touch. He doesn't have long hair anymore. But Riley was he said, I give him the ball. I was like, "Yeah, tell him we big fans. Look forward to seeing him later at the show, hopefully, this and that." And he goes, "Y'all want to meet him?" And I'm like, "Shit." And I mean, I don't want to bother him, but I mean, obviously I'd love to. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll be right back." He loves meeting people. And I'm like, "Sweet." So I run, Randy Travis all the way to the bus. He's like, "You kidding me?" I said, "No." So he puts another couple of hoodies on, and he's like, shimmies outside. So that the first time I ever got to meet him in person was Randy Travis, and he couldn't have been nicer, and just smiled, laughed, and told us a couple little jokes. Man, it was great. But anyway, so we got awesome. Randy Travis up there.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I thought that was a good story.
Not a bad place to start your Mount Rushmore for sure.
Yeah. So number 2, and congratulations, by the way, because Justin's going to get to open for this guy here in Little Rock. How cool is that?
You could pick that show if you want to. You know what?
I've seen
you have every show to pick from.
Yeah, and I've seen the ticket prices for that one now, so I understand that. But I really want this one to be more about Justin Moore than anybody else. And you're going to have enough people. You're going to have enough people that you're trying to get tickets for and stuff. And I've seen George Strait a lot, and I want this one to be more about you and your show. But George Strait, this one was February 17th, 2006. Tracy Lawrence and Miranda Lambert on the same.
I saw that tour.
Yeah. And then I have another one here, and it was 2007, the next year, George Strait with Ronnie Millsap and Taylor Swift.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
I saw the tour with Tracy Lawrence and Miranda on it. Miranda was first, Tracy was second. And I guarantee you, knowing routing, we probably seen it on the back-to-back nights. Because they were. I saw it in Little Rock, and I bet they went straight up to. Was it Columbia or Kansas
No,
City?
this one was in Kansas City at Kemper
I
Arena.
bet it was.
Kemper Arena.
I would venture to say it was back-to-back nights, and
Yeah.
I got so drunk and passed out that I didn't even make it to George Strait that night.
Oh, man.
My wife had to take me and put me to bed. But I'm gonna make this George Strait show that we're playing tomorrow.
Yeah, you better. I'm
gonna make
that's
that
gotta be
one
exciting. Yeah. And was he on your Mount Rushmore? I can't remember.
I don't think George was, to be honest.
I don't think so.
And obviously, I'm a huge George Strait fan. There was just a couple of guys that came before him that I put
Mount
on
Rushmore is damn near impossible, as we all know.
Well, it is, and I love all the people you guys have mentioned, but these are people that I've actually seen live and in person and really had an effect on me. And then, so number 3 would be the Chief, Eric Church. We've already talked about him, and of course, that time I see him about every time he comes. The good thing about living in between Kansas City and St. Louis is I can go to both places, so it's pretty awesome. And then I'm putting Justin Moore on my Mount Rushmore. Are you kidding me?
What?
I mean,
there you go.
And he is. I mean, if I can picture you in my head from 2012, you obviously had an effect on me. And like I told you before, I'm not just doing this to kiss up. I mean, your music's just as relevant today. I love some of the stuff you just put out. Why We Drink. I mean, that was awesome. And Miss Me More Than Me. I mean, if you're a parent, I mean, how awesome is that song? I love that song. But I got to tell you, In the Clouds, like some of the guys have done. Here's another one, Hank Jr. Here's a ticket stub for you. This is April 10th of '93. I lived in Lakeland, Florida back in the day. This was Orlando Arena, and on the bill was Aaron Tippin and Leroy Parnell.
Wow.
Funny thing about this one, and JR would appreciate this, is Hank Jr. and Derek Thomas from the Chiefs were best of friends.
Yeah, he was in the New Country video with him. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Young
Derek
Country.
Thomas actually appeared at the concert, got up on stage with him and sang with him at that concert in '93, and pretty cool story. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Bo Cephas is my cloud as well. I mean, that's
the cloud. I mean,
yeah, there's a great bar / venue we played in Lakeland 100 times called Boots and Buckles. I don't know if you ever ended up there after a arena
it was
show.
funny. I was 20 years old when I lived there, so pretty cool.
Yeah.
I turned 21 when I lived there.
93. Yeah, it probably was something. It was probably a strip club back then.
Yeah.
Saw the Travis Tritt, Marty Stewart, No Hats tour back in Lakeland during that time too. That was pretty awesome. Yeah.
That might have been one of the. That might be one of my top 5 I wish I could go back and see. That would have been an awesome tour to see.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Hey, one more thing I found in that shoe box I want to tell you about. I provided security in 2004 at the Missouri State Fair with a couple of legends that you guys always talk about. First of all, Mr. Charlie Daniels, and I was with him as he did his autographs and all that kind of stuff. And what's cool about him, he goes at the end of it, he said, hey trooper, how many troopers you got working this thing? And I said, well, there's about 12 of us. He said, I'm signing 12 of these, and I want you to give them each one of these autographed pictures, and be sure to give them to them and tell them thanks for what they do. That's Charlie Daniels
awesome.
right
No
there
doubt.
in the wrap.
No doubt.
But also in that same '04 fair, got to be backstage with Montgomery Gentry as we were watching Gary Allen, who was opening for him at the time. And it was funny because I was standing with them, and the Songs About Rain came on. Gary Allen's Songs About Rain. It was a new song. And T-Roy, he said, hey, this is that song about rain. And you wouldn't believe it, but right at that time, it started sprinkling. It didn't really rain, but it started sprinkling. But I got this pick, and I found this in that same shoebox. It's a Montgomery Gentry pick, and it's a T-Roy pick.
Oh, man.
And I couldn't even remember him giving that to me until I saw that. So that's pretty awesome too. So
yeah, no doubt.
Wow. Yeah. And you, Chris, you can attest to the fact that we've talked about how awesome Charlie Daniels is on this podcast forever. I mean, he's that great in person.
Oh yeah, he was awesome.
And so was Troy, and Troy was salt of the earth, and certainly miss him as well.
Yeah. And Gary Allen, that's, and if you wanted to do a real nostalgic thing, you can come. I know we're doing a show with Gary Allen. I just saw the contract come through. And at some point, actually, Gary Allen's opening for Justin at some point here this year. So
is that right?
That'd be a cool show to come to. You
awesome.
can see two of your, two guys you saw in flip flop. That's why I always tell everybody in this business. One of my words of advice to anybody young in this business: be cool to everybody, because you're gonna see everybody on your way up or on your way down or in between somewhere. So it's always be good to be cool with everybody. You never know.
Or both.
Exactly.
All of the above. Yeah. It's just good to be cool with everybody.
That's right.
If somebody's a jerk or a butt and doesn't do good business in this business, they'll find their way out. You ain't got to be. You ain't got to police the business. The business will take care of itself. Just be cool.
Hey, I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you guys to announce the Australian leg of the tour. That's what I'm waiting on.
Hey, we got some. They got some restrictions over there. We got to see how all this thing plays out for a little while longer before we do any international travel. We can barely go to the grocery stores around here right now. Let's make sure everything's good.
Well, it's funny. I've been blessed. I've been over there a couple times on business, one time on leisure in Australia, and I know you guys have talked about it. You guys have fit in just perfect down there. You'd love it. It's one of my favorite places other than USA is to be in Sydney, Australia. So you guys are going to love it when you go down there.
Yeah.
They know how to raise them up down there for sure.
Yeah,
so you'd have
the buddies in the business I know a couple guys used to work for Hauser, and my buddy Colin. I know some Australian guys that live here in the States full time now. Actually, Stewie moved. Him and his wife moved to some South American island somewhere, just living off grid or something. But anyway, those guys, they're a trip. Yeah. They're rough. They're rowdy. They're old school. They're like cowboys and stuff, but like weird, really Crocodile Dundee cowboys. Hey, speaking of cowboys and cowgirls and birthdays and days gone by, we were talking about it earlier. We've got to do your date of birth, number one birthday song, May 20th, 1972. Does anybody want to take a stab at the number one song in country music was this day?
Male or female?
It is a male. May 20th, 72.
And if you're a listener like me, you've already done this because you've listened to that podcast, so I'm not going to say anything, but I would guess, if I'm thinking of the right one, he may have been on your Mount Rushmore.
He's on mine.
Yeah.
And the song is awesome because it's a family song that goes back into talking about family, and a guy who didn't live in Nashville either. He might have for a second if he had to early on. I mean, it's one of the ones that's in a group of people that you love, but it's not your top of the list of the group.
Misery and Gin.
Close. Grandma Harp. Grandma Harp played the French. Yeah, you got to listen to that sometime. Man, classic. Family song.
It's about his grandma.
Was it a song he wrote? Was it about him? Yeah,
I would think. I don't know if you could really. Really? I wouldn't think you'd sing that song if it wasn't really your grandma.
Well, if you wrote it with a buddy or some friend, somebody you met, might have been a cousin, I have to look into that. But what a great tune by Merle Haggard, who we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Grandma Harp.
I guess Misery and Gin would not be a family song.
Right. Grandma Harp played the guitar and the French harp, Daddy played the ring and tambourine, anyway, great tune. And that was your birthday song. You came into this world in a good country tune there, brother.
Hey, it's Merle, you can't beat that.
It is Merle.
No doubt. No doubt.
We talked about Mount Rushmore. Yeah, he's on mine, but it's I mean, depends on what week it is. I mean, there's so many good ones out there, and it's just hard to pick because to me it's like almost now at this point I need one for about every decade. What was my Mount Rushmore each decade? Because there's young guys coming along like Just and like my buddy John Party and like Riley and some of the guys I really like now that are coming along. I'm like, well, how do I? Well, I need a new one for my guys. Just because I know them don't mean they can't be on my Mount Rushmore of who I like too. Because I'm still a fan as well.
What about the handler manager Mount Rushmore? I mean, you could go through that. You've already talked about Hank Jr.'s handler back in the day.
Merle Kilgore.
All Merle Kilgore.
It's Merle Kilgore.
Well,
and then
Four Faces.
George Washington on JR is going to be my Mount Rushmore. George Washington on my Mount Rushmore for handlers, and then Colonel Tom Parker.
Colonel Tom,
that's a good one.
He's on there.
And then I'm gonna go Miss Elizabeth, Macho Man Randy Savage's manager, be my last one.
Not a bad one. I mean, I don't know.
Can't beat that.
Classy Freddie Blassie. I mean, he was pretty good too. That's a good one. And that's funny. While we got you on here, we'll do this one real quick. I know you got crazy people to make sure stay in jail and keep your people safe. God bless y'all for that, and that's not it. But I got I had a guy sent something in. Let's see who sent me this. This is from Zach Fitzgerald. He sent this in. He said, NBC has jumped on y'all's question. Who y'all got? This is if American sports had a Mount Rushmore, who would you put on it? American, I know George Brett's on yours, obviously. American sports.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, Zach said his is going with Earnhardt, MJ, Jackie Robinson, and Brady.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely an MJ guy. I've even got my original – I found them not too long ago, my original Air Jordan pants, and they were wind pants back when I was really young. My first pair of Air Jordans, the white with metallic blue. Mm-hmm. So I'm an MJ guy, George Brett guy. And then I've got to go Troy Aikman. I'm a Cowboys guy. JM, I know that hurts again. Hey, and by the way, how do you become a Steelers fan in Arkansas? There's a lot of Cowboys fans in Arkansas.
Mostly Cowboy fans in Arkansas. It's really it's somewhat convoluted, but also simple at the same time. So I grew up a Cowboys fan. Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Irving, the whole that whole era. Plus Jerry Jones played at Arkansas. Our only national championship in football was '64. He was on that team as an O-lineman. But he was also on that team with Jimmy Johnson, who at the time was the coach that for some reason I loved.
Well, because he played at Arkansas on the national championship team, and the owner played on the championship team too. I mean, you were a shoe-in, and regionally,
yeah, and then when he fired Jimmy Johnson, I don't know why it had such an effect on a 12-year-old, who the coach was.
Because you're a loyal guy.
But
hogs don't fire hogs.
It bothered me so bad that I said I will never root for the Cowboys ever again, and I
haven't. Is that right? Wow.
And so I had to pick another team, and I picked the Steelers.
Hey, we always say that, if you're an athlete at a big university, the worst thing to do is transfer later on or piss on your team on the way out or say something bad later on, because you always want to go back home and get a car dealership in near the hometown or the university where you went. You can always, if you play your cards right and are a good college athlete and don't mess up, your team will always welcome you back with open doors. You get all the cool stuff. So you don't do that, and then that's what happened there. He did and lost a lifetime fan over it. From Hogs supposed to stick together.
Most people were upset when they fired Tom Landry, who I love Tom Landry too, and went with Jimmy Johnson. So a lot of people were mad at that. Lost probably a lot of Cowboys fans then too. Yeah. Until they started winning.
Yeah, and then
they got plenty of Cowboys fans. I promise you.
Yeah,
they ain't missing me.
And then I'd put Greg Maddux. We talked about him. The family ties there. I'd put those four there for sure.
Who you got, Just?
Right. Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan, Earnhardt. I'm struggling for the fourth. I was just writing it down right here.
I had one in my head I was thinking, but this goes back to also my thinking the definitive ones who I think Chris did it right. KC did it right. That's the ones that meant the most to him, not just because they were the biggest figure. Because when I first started, I was thinking, all right, Jordan for sure, he's my guy. Then I was thinking Ali, and I was thinking, wait a minute. As much as I love, the story of Ali and his inspirational quotes and all that stuff, I'm like, I didn't watch Ali box. He was a figure by the time I was old enough to watch TV and stuff. But I did love boxing because of my great granddad.
Tyson. Yeah.
Tyson, that was going to be in it. But so I started getting this list together, and it got 12 people on it like that. And then I said, so I replied back to Zach real quick. I just said, that's a tough one. Funny again, this rolls back into something we were talking about, as it always does with old PineTar here. I said, that's a tough one. My personal, Saban, Kenny Stabler, Joe Namath, and Derek Thomas. But
Alabama.
I was just being funny. They could be on there. I mean, Stabler
it's funny
probably
because I was gonna add to that list Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan, Dale Earnhardt,
Derek Buffett.
I was gonna add Nolan Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
That's the only national championship I've seen is when he was a coach.
Yeah.
Hey, another thing with Nolan, I went to his first Arkansas Razorback basketball camp when he became the coach, and so Mike Anderson was his assistant, who later became Mizzou head coach. But I went to their first one. I actually signed up for the Eddie Sutton camp, and ended up in Nolan Richardson camp, which is good. And they're at the old Barnhill.
So that would have been about 88, 87?
Oh man, it was before that. Yeah, I was a youngster, and that was my first overnight camp.
Wow.
And so that would probably been in. I think it was actually middle 80s, like 84.
Oh,
85,
was it really?
like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I remember going to an Arkansas parade one time, and shaking hands with both Eddie Sutton, who was the basketball coach at the time, and Lou Holtz, who was the football coach at the time.
Wow.
So when I said I had some Arkansas blood, I do have some Razorback in me. So,
there you go.
Yeah. But MIZ, you gotta represent here. We're close. Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, honestly, man, I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I hope that you have.
Absolutely.
And this is just the precursor to what's to come. As we talked about on the podcast, look forward to seeing you at a show this coming year, of whichever one you choose to come to, and we're continuing, honestly, daily to book show after show after show.
Oh yeah, there's going to be some.
We've got some.
We've got some to announce. There's going to be some fun shows coming up,
and we have a really fun tour to announce here soon. Probably be next season on the podcast before we announce it. But
awesome.
But really cool opening act, and great guy as well. But
So Gino will definitely have a hand in who we go.
I get it,
which
man.
one we go, and because I think she deserves it after being Teacher of the Year.
Pick a good city.
Yeah.
Pick a good town.
Right.
Yeah, and if we've got any, if you don't have hookups there, I'll help make arrangements for whatever. We'll get you hooked up with anything you need while you're there. And I got to say,
guys, you can't. When I go though, you can't go back on the bus and just watch Ted Lasso. We're gonna. I want the full meal deal.
Okay.
I want to. It's one thing to go to the concert and everything like that, but I want the full meal deal here. I want to raise one with you guys and have a good time. So it'll be awesome.
Yeah,
and then I can report back to the listeners. Yeah,
we'll make sure to rest up.
Yeah, pick the middle pick the middle show of the run. If it's a 3-day run, pick the middle show, because usually the first one we try to figure it out, don't want to get too wrecked, and then the second
pick the Friday night.
Yeah, then the second one's usually like, oh hell, let's just party because we can limp through this last one if we got to. It'll still be fine. We'll make it happen. So we'll pick them in. I just want to say I appreciate you coming on, spending this time. I also want to appreciate you not taking him up on George Strait tickets, because we don't have many of those. They're going to be damn near impossible to get.
No,
but man, very cool. Didn't know. Thank you for your service. Didn't know you were in law enforcement, but thank you for your service. Thank your wife and your family, because it's everybody's involved when it's service people, because they let you guys leave home and take care of us and everybody else's families before they get home to their families, like you guys do, guys and gals do all the time, and we appreciate you for that. Thank you for coming on. Let's stay in touch. Yeah, we'll get you back on next year. I thought this was great. Maybe after you come to the show, we can talk about the show and we'll talk some more sports. And I know now if we're struggling to get if a guest backs out on us last minute, I'm just gonna make sure you're not busy, and we'll buzz you into Chit Chat Sports with you. You seem like you're up for it.
Hey, that'd be awesome.
I should have. You know what I just thought about, Justin? I should have called Marty Smith while we had him on. That's what I should have done.
That's okay.
We'll do it next time. Yeah, sorry.
By the way, guys, never apologize when you don't have a guest. Some of those episodes are the best episodes. And, I was obviously nervous to follow up Matthew McConaughey and Parker McCullum and Lee Bryce and all those guys. But it's been awesome, and appreciate you guys. And thank you so much for the opportunity. I know there's listeners out there who deserve this trip way more than me, but I will represent, and I'll let them know how it goes. It'll be a lot of fun. So thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Really enjoyed it, and thank you again for the support over the years and listening to this podcast. And hopefully you enjoyed yourself today. And again, we'll have more fun when you come to the show, man.
Awesome. Well, Merry Christmas to you guys, and have a good
Merry Christmas.
Good look to see you.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, brother.
Tell Gina and the kids the same, and we'll see you soon, man.
Yeah, everybody go check him out. KCPineTar on Instagram. Friend him up, fan him up, chit-chat with him about some music or sports. I know he'd love to hear from you, and we appreciate you, KC. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
All right, that was our buddy KCPineTar. He finally got it. So his name's not KCPineTar, and I was wondering the same thing. What is the PineTar? I thought at first it was some kind of jab at somebody, like something, but that's his George Brett. Makes so much sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. I mean, that was a famous thing
Ordeal.
in sports.
Oh yeah, huge at the time.
George Brett, throwing the fit and running after the.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good. That was good.
He was
and
great.
he was a great guy.
Yeah. Really
Really well spoken. Obviously a huge fan, not only of me but of the podcast, and well informed and educated and well spoken, and we didn't even know that he was a police officer.
As soon as he
which
said
was
that,
added bonus.
I'm thinking, thank goodness I picked this guy. I was like, ooh, good job, JR. Because I'm thinking, I just literally just strolled through and was like, this one. And
yeah, that was awesome, man.
Couldn't have turned out better.
That was great.
Yep.
Yeah,
got sports, got music talked in there. That was cool. I know we've got a lot more we need to talk about because we've got sports coming up. We got bowl game. You're bowling. I'm bowling. Our basketball teams are rocking. Y'all had that little setback the other day. Boys, Must calm down yet?
No.
He was fired up,
He
buddy.
don't calm down.
He was fired up at the end of that game, buddy.
So we're 9-1, and he is livid.
Yeah.
We're 9-1, ranked in the top 25, but we were top 10, and we haven't been playing that well.
Right.
So he's pretty ticked off right now, and we have a lot of transfers, and they haven't really, as I told Chris, they haven't really gelled yet, and he's been trying to figure this whole lineup out and everything, but
I don't know if he's as mad as the whole Houston fan base was when they thought they had a.
Oh my! I didn't see the end of the game, but I saw the way that their coach and some of their players reacted after the game, which was completely classless. But I do have to say this, and I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, they came back.
But one of their players.
Yep.
So long story short, they walk off the court. Alabama and Houston play. Alabama wins on last second something. I don't know.
Well, it was
what happened.
it was back and forth. They were up on us 6 points most of the game. Really, we'd cut it to none. They get it out to 10. We'd cut it. We'd go up one, and we really didn't go up until the end of the game. And it was just a really good game. Houston is legit. I mean, that Sutton guy they got can play. They
were in the Final Four last year.
Yeah, and they can play. I mean, those guys are good. And I know we're young still in some spots, but we got a good team this year. We got all around good team this year, and it's a bunch of shooting threes. But their defense was on us. They were picking us up at the half court. So anyway, it was a great game. I think we might have just slightly out-talented them a little bit there at the end. We just had a little we got a kid named J.D. Davidson. That's the big crazy blonde-headed freshman. He was one of the top
point guard,
one of the top 5 in the country when we got him. One of the biggest pickups we've had since Colin Sexton and Kira Lewis. But and we've got a bunch of good young players. We've actually had some really good recruiting classes. But man, he looks so poised. He looks like our Bama quarterbacks do. It could be we're down. He did like nothing's wrong. I mean, just no emotion, not frantic at all. Comes down, gets a bucket in traffic over bigs. They come down, they get a shot off. It's rimming out. JD jumps up, blocks it, puts it in the stands. Game's over. Well, they're saying it's sitting on the rim still, and I can't remember the official from the television station. They have an official on there to tell you what should happen.
Right.
He was like, well, the angles are kind of hard, but he's like, because of that, it's fine. And if you look at the angle I saw, for sure, it wasn't on the rim. Either way, I'm taking it. We get hosed sometimes too, and I don't think it really was. I think it was just a good play there at the end. It just, literally a game of inches. That ball goes an inch, half an inch one way, it's a bucket. There, half a second left, we lose. So we won last second by 1 point, 83-82. Their players are hot, as expected, but they're on the refs, like following the ref. They're almost a little too much. It's almost like we got
and their coach.
Their coach too. It was a little like this is the little NBA-ish. A little this not kids can't go after the ref. People got to quit going after people in general. Your reaction in America, guys, and I watch a little TikTok. I'm gonna have to quit because it's so ridiculous. But just your first reaction ain't scream and cuss and go at somebody. How about let's have some decency out there, America? I'm not saying these kids were doing that.
Go look in the mirror.
Yeah, right. And I'm not saying these kids were
They get one more stop during the game.
Well, but you just can't go after. You can't go after a ref. You can't be screaming and holler. There's a better way to handle that. But so they did. So on the way out, they threw some trash cans over.
Well, their coach walking back to the dressing room. Their head coach, who's a great head coach. I mean, he's Kelvin Sampson.
Oh God, legend!
He
Isn't
was great
that
at
Ralph
Oklahoma.
Sampson's son?
I mean, he's great.
Yeah.
He kicks a trash can over, and then the next player to knock it over, and they kick a chair, and they do this and that. Well, the next kid, to give him credit, the next kid, I don't know his name. I wish I did. He stops and picks all the trash up, puts the chair back. Just really classy move by that kid.
Yep.
Not a classy move by the kid before and the coach, but got to give credit to the kid that stopped and did all that. And,
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
anyway.
tough win. Hey, I get it.
Yeah,
Tough
to your
losses
point-
are tough, but we got the W.
Yeah, to your point, we lost our first game this past Saturday, and it was like a 3-point game with like 6 minutes left. We ended up losing by 22.
Yeah, I think they went on a 27-4 run or something crazy at the end.
Our coach gets thrown out. We played like absolute crap, and Oklahoma played really well.
Yep.
I mean, you got to give them credit. They played really, really well. Beat us up. They were tougher than us. They out-rebounded. I mean, they just did everything right.
That's how
They shot better than
how
us.
Houston. They were killing us on the offensive boards. I'm like, could we put a body on this big? They had one big guy who wasn't huge, a 6'7", 6'8" power forward, but that guy. I think he had 17 rebounds on us or something crazy in college.
Yeah, they walled us off. They had a great game plan and they executed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we had a great game plan, but we did not execute it.
Right.
So anyway, our coach gets thrown out. We take our first L of the season, but I think there's 7 SEC teams ranked in the top 25, including Alabama, Arkansas. So it's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we've got a lot. We're gonna have a lot of that to talk about on our year-end wrap-up show we're gonna do here the week of.
And maybe we'll get
New
into
Year's.
some of the because we went longer with Chris than I thought, and I've got to jump on a conference call.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll go over some of the funny Paul stories.
Oh, yeah.
My grandfather.
Yes.
In our final episode of the year here in next week or the week.
2 weeks. We're going to take
following.
next week off for Christmas. We won't. This will be our "'Tis the Season to Be Jolly" with KCPineTar episode, and this will get us through Christmas. I want everybody to enjoy their time. I know I wish we could get one out, but we're both going to be traveling all next week and getting ready for family. So I want everybody to enjoy their home time with their family. Then we'll come back. We'll record on the 28th, and we'll have that out. The New Year's Eve, the 30th of December, we'll have our last episode of the season out. We're going to have our brother, our co-worker, partner, managerial guru, content guru, Cody Villalobos.
Tech guru.
Everything. Cody Villalobos, who produces this podcast, is going to come on with us, and we're going to talk about. We're going to do a bunch of these questions. We're going to tell some stories. We're going to, we may take some comments. Who knows? We're going to have a big, fun, long episode to end the year out, and then we'll take a break for New Year's for a couple of weeks, and then we're going to come back and rock it again for a whole nother season of the Justin Moore podcast next year.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be good. I look forward to it.
Well,
So I say we hold
yeah.
off and talk about all that sports stuff until next episode.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll preview bowls. You guys are obviously in the playoffs as the number 1 seed. We'll come back and we'll talk about what we're doing for the holidays. And we'll go over, Cody, this sounds kind of odd to say, but Cody lost his grandfather this year as well. So, maybe we'll talk about some stories of both of our grandpas and it'll be a big time. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I say
be a Christmas celebration.
Yep.
How about that?
A farewell to 2021 and on to bigger and brighter 2022. I look forward to it. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in this week. Again, from myself, JR the Handler on Twitter and Instagram, and Justin Cole Moore on Twitter and Instagram. We couldn't do this without you guys listening, supporting the podcast, sending in these questions, giving us these reviews, these likes, all these clicks and interactions you do help the podcast stay on each and every week. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts and our families. I want to wish y'all a Merry Christmas. Like I said, I want everybody to, whatever you have, be thankful for it, and do for others as much as you can during this season. Like I said, send something out if you can to the people over there in Kentucky. I know I know they could use a lot of help right now. Sorry, getting a Jameson, former podcast guest, Jameson Rogers, sending me a text here. But I was looking on my phone because before we get out of here, I want to give a talk about a fan here needs some prayers, guys. JR, I love the podcast. Been listening. This is Trey Bledsoe. Been listening since day one. I come today to ask for a big favor if you can. My little boy, Titus Raylan Bledsoe, is in PICU on a ventilator fighting for his life in Greensboro. He's 8 weeks old and has RSV. All I'm asking is next podcast. Can you have everyone that can and will say a prayer for my little boy? I'm just trying to get as many people to say a prayer for him. I know God can heal his little body. I play Justin songs more than me to him, hoping I'll be able to do just that, take him hunting, fishing, and even to a show one day. Thanks for all, and keep him coming. And he sent me a picture of his little boy. It's just heartbreaking. So y'all send a prayer out to Titus and Trey's family if you can while we're throwing them up today, because that's got to be tough during this season to have to be at the hospital with a sick little one. So want to make sure I get that in there. But, and next week we'll do a lot more questions type stuff and comment stuff. But until then, go to justinmooremusic.com. You can check out all the tour dates we have announced for next year. The new music, which I wanted to talk about. Greatest Hits vinyl is February 25th of next year. It's going to be a Walmart exclusive. I think you can go ahead and pre-order it. I know some people have seen that. And something I didn't know about, but I'm getting fired up about now. And thank you to The Morning Hangover, our buddy Kurt Burdella, for putting this out every morning so I can see what's going on in the world of country music, since I'm oblivious sometimes. Our good buddy and fellow Arkansas, Joe Nichols, putting out a record in February too.
Awesome.
February 11th. Good Day for Living. And I love some Joe Nichols music, so I know that'll be a good one. So go get that one. And then 2 weeks later, Justin will have the Greatest Hits vinyl out, and it's going to be red. It's going to be cool. So y'all check that out. And one more thing, I haven't even told you this yet. And you don't have social media, so you don't know, but our good friend.
And I got one more thing to tell you.
Let's do it.
Everybody, and I ain't told you yet, but go ahead.
I want to say shout out to our health and wellness guru, brother, and former podcast guest, Mr. Diamond Dallas Page, for getting married this weekend. He surprise wedding.
What?
Yep, him and Paige had a surprise wedding up in Chattanooga. He tricked her into thinking they were going for a Christmas dinner, and then boom,
we're getting married, brother.
Everybody's there. You have to look at some of the videos. It was
awesome.
Great. So anyway, so congrats to Dallas.
Congrats,
yep,
Dally.
Yep,
that's awesome.
And Paige.
And next week also, we will have, I don't know if it'll be the biggest news ever for this podcast, but it's huge. Huge announcement. Huge. Something that I'm doing. And we'll announce that next week on the podcast as well. So it has to do nothing with music, but it does have to do something with sports. So
awesome.
We'll just leave it at that.
There you go.
So
you get all these exclusives here exclusively on the Justin Moore podcast. So y'all make sure to use the hashtag Justin Moore podcast when you're interacting with us. Like I said, give us those likes, comments, 5 stars. Check us out. Spread the love. Tell your friends and family. If everybody's got a lot of traveling to do, if you've already listened to the recent episodes, go back and listen to some from the first couple seasons. We were awful, but they were entertaining, I hope, at least. And spread the word about the Justin Moore podcast, because like I said, next year we're going to come back with a brand new season. We're going to be rocking. I'm going to redo my office here and stuff, and it's going to have new guests. It's going to be fun. It's a couple new sponsors. Shout out to all of our sponsors so far that have made this happen. Couldn't thank them enough. I'm going to drink some of this Bangtail whiskey later, and I've already had some of this fine Estaboga Bee Company honey up in my coffee this morning. So thank you to Bobcat, Wrangler, Kate Storr. I mean, everybody who's supported us through this year.
Little piggy.
Yep. So we appreciate y'all.
For sure.
Tune back in week after next, and we'll have some exclusives for you. Until then, Merry Christmas from everybody here at the Justin Moore podcast. God bless you all. Say a couple prayers for everybody we mentioned earlier, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thanks, guys. Hey, guys, today's podcast is sponsored by Bobcat Company. Check them out at bobcat.com.
For any of you first-time listeners out there, at the end of each of our episodes, I like to do a little reading out of a book I've had that I've got a lot of use out of over the years. The book is by Mr. Charlie Daniels, and the book is called Let's All Make the Day Count, The Everyday Wisdom of Charlie Daniels. Work ethic. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. Psalms 90:17. The basics of my work ethic were not gained by playing musical instruments and singing. They were birthed in a white, hot, bright leaf tobacco field, the logging woods, the humid yards of a creosote plant, and working in a factory, and I wouldn't trade anything for the experience. I learned to work with plows, chainsaws, cant hooks, hoes, and axes. I sweated it out with men who had no aspirations to do anything else than what they were doing. I had the opportunity to witness men content with their lot in life and committed to giving a day's work for a day's pay. All this laid the groundwork for how I would view my music career when the time came. And though it's more mental than physical, applying the same, if I don't do it, it won't get done, gather the crop when it's ripe, whatever it takes, approach, has served me well. I wish all young people could spend a period of time doing heavy manual labor. It would help develop empathy, responsibility, and a strong work ethic. Work ethic isn't something you're born with. You must earn it. Let's all make the day count.